Impressionism. Impressionist paintings are among the most loved and celebrated artwork of all time. But what is Impressionism, and who were the great Impressionist artists? Impressionism is perhaps one of the most identifiable and famous art movements of history. Often referred to as the first modern movement, it was born in April 1874 when a group of young artists defied the official Paris salon by setting up their own independent exhibition, including works by Claude Monet, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Camille Pissarro, Edgar Degas, and Berthe Morisot. It became known as the first Impressionist exhibition. The Impressionist work was characterized by loosened brushwork and lighted palettes, including pure and intense colors. They abandoned traditional linear perspective and often avoided the clarity of form. For this reason, many critics quoted Impressionist paintings for their unfinished appearance and seemingly amateurish quality. Collectively, Impressionists sought to capture the impression of scene through lively brush stroke, and they often worked in plein air, producing works of art rapidly in a single setting. Rejecting the salon's preference for historical or allegorical subjects, they created instead what Monet called spontaneous work rather than a calculated one. In the 1870s, many of the Impressionist painters were predominantly attracted to landscape, searching for ways to capture the fleeting effects of light, weather, and time of day on canvas. By the 1880s, artists looked beyond landscape. Renoir turned towards figure painting. Monet considered visual perspective in a more abstract way through seriality and repetition. And Edgar Degas pursued female figures yet retained the distinctive rapid brush strokes, fresh colors, and scenes of the internal light unique to Impressionism. Much like the French realists, changing Parisian life and the reality of modern city was a recurring theme for many Impressionism, who were painted cafe scenes, railway bridges, and busy boulevards. Although the group was dominated by men, several female artists also rose to prominence, including Morisot and Cassatt. When the first Impressionist exhibition was held in 1874, Berthe Morisot joined the group and agreed never again to send work to the salon. Morisot was faithful exhibitor at all 8 Expressionist exhibitions from 1874 to 1886. Like the other Impressionist painters, she was preoccupied by capturing lights, but she also used broad strokes and colors that echo when she had observed in Monet's work. As the first modern art movement, Impressionism had a significant impact on subsequent artists and movement with artists like Vincent van Gogh and Edvard Munch among those influenced. More recent influences include the important pop artist Roy Lichtenstein, who paid homage to Monet's water lily paintings. The aesthetic qualities of Impressionism can be seen widely through its ubiquitous popularity and impact on our culture today.
Romanticism, also known as Romantic Era, was an artistic, literary, musical, and intellectual movement that originated in Europe. The term used by early 19th century to describe the movements in art and literature distinguished by a new interest in human psychology, expression of personal feeling, and interest in the natural world. Importance of Romanticism. The artists emphasized the sense of emotions, not simply reason and order, were usually important means of understanding and experiencing the world. 5 characteristics of Romanticism. Interest in the common man and childhood. Strong senses, emotions, and feelings. Awe of nature. Celebration of individual. Importance of imagination. The father of Romanticism, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, born in June 28, 1712, died on July 2, 1778, was a Genevan philosopher, writer, and composer. His political philosophy influenced by the progress of the Enlightenment throughout Europe. Works of Jean. The Social Contract. Discourse on the Arts and Sciences. Discourse on the Origin of Inequality Among Men. Emile or on Education. Father of Romanticism. Number 2. Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844 to 90s, was a German philosopher, essayist, and cultural critic. These writings on truth, morality, language, aesthetics, cultural theory, history, nihilism, power consciousness, and the meaning of existence have exerted an enormous influence. Works of Friedrich. Beyond God and Evil. Thus Spoke Zarathustra. The Will to Power. The Birth Tragedy. Example of artworks. Artist Eugene Delacroix, Death of Sardanapalus, 1827. Artist Philip Otto Range, The Morning, 1808. Artist Caspar David Friedrich, Wanderer Above the Sea of Frog, 1818. And that's all. Thank you.
Art Nouveau. What is Art Nouveau? Art Nouveau is an ornamental style of art that flourished between about 1890 and 1910 throughout Europe and the United States. Art Nouveau is characterized by its use of a long sinus organic line and was employed most often in architecture, interior design, jewelry, and glass design, poster, and illustration, generating emphasized in the decorative and graphic arts and architecture throughout Europe and beyond. Art Nouveau appeared in a wide variety of strands, and consequently it is known by various names such as the Glasgow style, or in the German-speaking world, Jangen style. There are different styles in different countries of Art Nouveau. In Germany, they have Jangen style, like I said lately, and in Austria they have Session style, In Italy, they have style floral and or style liberty. In Spain, they have modernismo or modernista. Importance of Art Nouveau. It was a deliberate attempt to create a new style free of the imitative historicism that dominated much of the 19th century art and design. So in that century, they make Art Nouveau as a new style to create something artworks to other people impressing. About this time, the term Art Nouveau was coined in the Belgium by the periodical L'Art Moderne to describe the work of the artist group Les Vents, and in the Paris by S.B., who named his gallery L'Art Nouveau. So, the one who make Art Nouveau is coined by the name L'Art Moderne, and by this artist group Les Vents. Art Nouveau was aimed at modernizing design, seeking to escape the eclectical historical styles that had previously been popular. The desire to abandon the historical styles of the 19th century was an important impetus behind Art Nouveau, and one that establishes the movement's modernism. Many Art Nouveau practitioners felt that earlier design had been excessively ornamental, and in wishing to avoid what they perceived as frivolous decoration, they believed that the function of an object should dictate its form. So Art Nouveau in the past century, many practitioners that make it used properly as a new style. So this is the example of artworks of Art Nouveau. So first artwork is the La Gouleau at the Moulin Rouge in 1891. The artist of this is Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. So the artist Toulouse-Lautrec is one of Art Nouveau most important graphic artists who were responsible for raising the poster from the realm of advertising ephemera to high art during 1890s, the same decade that saw the establishment of artistic magazines solely dedicated of this medium. So, the La Gouleau at the Moulin Rouge takes the flourish and messiness of a French cancan dancer dress and breaks it down to a few simple rhythmic lines, thereby suggesting the sense of movement of speed. So in this example, the artworks imposed by flourish of messiness of a French cancan dancer. So this is the dancer of French, and the lines and space whereby the picture says it is suggesting the sense of movement and space. Next is the cover design for Rennes City Churches in 1883. The artist of this is Arthur Haggett McMurdo. McMurdo's woodcut is an example of the influence of English design, particularly the arts of crafts movement on Art Nouveau. The woodcut as a genre points to the handcrafted, unique quality of the work and the simplicity of McMurdo's use of positive and negative space both contributed to this association. The woodcut proves far more valuable than actual content. McMurdo's woodcut is an example of the influence of English design, particularly the arts and crafts movement on Art Nouveau. The woodcut as a genre points to the handcrafted unique quality of the works and the simplicity of McMurdo's use of positive and negative space both contributed to this association. The woodcut proves far more valuable than the actual content, which consists of a rambling, loose description of the architecture of the Baroque London churches designed by Christopher Wren. So this artwork is called in churches as English design by Christopher Wren in London. So next is the peacock skirt, 1894. Artist of this is Aubrey Beardsley. Beardsley's The Peacock Skirt is an illustration made by Weldy's biblical play Salome. So Salome, so the one we read in the Bible, the one based on the biblical narrative centered on Salome's order to serve the pattern the head of John the Baptist. It is a fine sample of how many artists influenced by Art Nouveau lead with emphasize on line of adjusting their figures to produce the fashionable sinus curves. So as you can see, the sinus curves in the paint is being seen above, often obstructing the figures to produce the fashionable sinus curves, so characteristic of the style. It is also an example of the contemporaneous aesthetic movement, and in that respect, demonstrate how Art Nouveau overlap and interact with various other period styles. Next is the Budapest Museum of Applied Arts. So, museum siya guys, as you can see. And the artist of this is Odon Littner and Gyula Partos. This design by Odon Littner, sometimes known as the Hungarian Gaudi. So, nasila yung term o ang Hungarian Gaudi, which is the term for Hungary. With his partner Gyula Partos, the Budapest Museum of Applied Arts is an example of the way that the Hungarian national strand of Art Nouveau, often called the Hungarian secession because of its closeness to Vienna, consisted more than an investigation of various historical sites than a precise search for new ones. So this church is many styles, historical styles, like mga ordinary churches lang. So this building on a trapezoidal site encircles a courtyard that is largely filled by a glass atrium to the rear of the main facade. So that's the Budapest Museum of Applied Arts by Odon Littner and Gyula Partos. So the style Art Nouveau went out of fashion for the most part long before the First World War. So dito pa ni siya nisugod sa First World War yun, paving the way for the development of Art Deco in the 1920s, but experienced a popular revival in the 1960s. So grabe siya ka-famous in 1920s, but nibalik siya pagka sikat in 1960s para gamiton og tarong sa mga artist, and it is now seen as an important predecessor if not an integral component of modernism. So as an Art Nouveau, ginapil na siya sa modernism term because of his new style of artwork. So that's all. Thank you. So constructivism. Key artists of constructivism is Vladimir Tatlin, Il Lisetsky, Alexander Rodchenko, Naon Gabu, Lyubov Popova. So let's start from the key artist of Vladimir Tatlin. So he was born on December 28, 1885 and died on May 31, 1953. He is a Russian, Ukrainian, and Soviet painter, architect, and stage designer. He achieved fame as architect who designed the monument to the Third International, one of the two most important figures in the Soviet avant-garde art movement of the 1920s. So periods of his career is post-impressionism, cubism, constructivism, expressionism, abstract art, and modern art. So cubism, like drawing like using cubes or square artworks. Next is L. Lesetsky, November 23, 1890, and died on December 13, 1941. Russian artist, designer, photographer, typographer, polemicist, and architect. Important figures of Russian avant-garde. He helped develop suprematism. So, L. Lesetsky helped to develop suprematism in order to create new artwork style. Periods of his career is constructivism, suprematism, NOUVEAU art, futurism, modern art, socialist, and realism. Next is Alexander Mikhailovich Rodchenko. He was born on December 5, 1891 and died on December 3, 1956. He is a Russian artist, sculptor, photographer, and graphic designer. He was one of the founders of constructivism and Russian design. He is the most versatile constructivist and productivist artist after Russian Revolution. So he is so multitasking artist, like he can do different work. So his period's career includes modern art and constructivism. Next is Naum Gabu. So Naum Gabu is born in August 5, 1890 to August 23, 1977. An influential sculptor, jurist, and key figure in Russia's post-revolution avant-garde and the subsequent development of 20th century sculpture, known for sculpture, kinetic art, and printmaking. So kinetic art, like the one moving art in pictures, the motion pictures. So periods of his career includes constructivism, modern art. Next is Lyubov Sergeyevna Popova. He was born on April 24, 1889 to May 25, 1924. He is a Russian avant-garde artist, painter, and designer. He is interested in 5th and 6th century Italian painters. His periods of career includes Cubism, abstract art, suprematism, modern art, constructivism, and futurism. So that's it, and
The STIJL in 1917 to 1931. The STIJL or the STIJL. The STIJL is a Dutch artistic movement founded in Netherlands, also known as Neoplastism. Founders are Piet Mondrian and Theo van Doesburg. The STIJL is a utopian idea of spiritual harmony and order, simplified to vertical and horizontal lines. The STIJL used only primary colors along with black and white. The STIJL is not to reflect reality but rather to express the harmony that they believed was the law of universe. Their works of art help the public along the path to truth and purity. The STIJL used only primary colors and non-colors, only squares and rectangles, only straight and horizontal or vertical lines, according to Piet Mondrian. This is the first STIJL magazine, first front cover, 1917, by Vilmos Zar. The group's monthly journal called the STIJL started in 1917. This longing for harmony developed in the chaotic times of World War I. The journal continued to be printed until 1931 when Theo van Doesburg died. Theo van Doesburg is a Dutch artist, founder and leader of the STIJL. Complete abstraction of reality in his paintings. He was more flamboyant and extravagant. Split up with his colleague Piet Mondrian in 1924 due to disagreement. This is the art of Theo van Doesburg. Next is Piet Mondrian. Piet Mondrian is a Dutch painter, important contributor to the STIJL. Piet Mondrian is an introvert by nature, and this is the example of Piet Mondrian. Art. And lastly, Gerrit Rietveld is a Dutch furniture designer and architect, one of the principal members of the STIJL, famous for his red and blue chair design. The chair was designed for the Rietveld Schroeder House, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And this is the picture of the red and blue chair design. And that's all. Thank you.